there are a lot of ways to get wealthy in real estate. And I think some people realize where they thought they wanted to go, and by building a team and having a bunch of sales is the way to go. But life happens, circumstances change, expectations change, and we see a lot of people get out of the business, right? And I think there's a quote that 80 some odd % of people don't last 5 years. It's 88.
Yeah, you can make up a number. Nobody knows the truth.
I've heard that number by someone else before. So, and I think what a lot of people do is say, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to go get a corporate job. I'm going to go start a roofing company. I'm going to do something else. And they just kind of drop everything. They say, you know, if they're solo, they say, I'm just done. If they're team agents, they say, hey, you know, if they have agents on their team, they say, go to Kyle, go to Dan, go to whoever. They're cool people, but I'm done. Is there a way I want to talk about on this podcast where even if you're exiting real estate, whether you're a solo agent or a team, is there a way to monetize that and set up your clients and database for success?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one to dive into because there are, right? Let's just say it's somewhere around 4 out of 5 people are out of this industry after 5 years. So is there...
Weird. I said 80% and you gave me shit. And now you can
say...
87. Well, I first said 80 and then I think it's 88. But okay, 4 out of 5. Carry on.
Yeah, somewhere around 4 out of 5 are out of the business within 5 years. So the question is there a way to get out and still monetize that exit? And you know, people are going to exit in a variety of different ways. Some voluntarily, you know, some who just can't hack it, whatever the case may be. But I think there's always a way out to sell what you did build, even if it's whether small or large. I think there's a way to monetize it. Couldn't you actually sell it? We'll talk about that. But there's always a way to monetize that. So that's what we'll dive into today. Welcome to the Whissel Way podcast. My name is Kyle Whissel, your host with eXp Realty in San Diego.
And I'm Bryan Koci.
The goal of the show is to give you the tools, techniques, and tactics. Go out there and crush it in your business. The way that we like to do that is to answer the questions that you have for us. So if you ever have a question you want to have us answer on the show, like the one we're about to cover, you can always go to thewhisselway.com, thewhisselway.com. Ask us questions on there. Subscribe to the podcast and YouTube channel. Join our private Facebook group and email newsletter. We share a lot of tips and tricks. Get on our outbound referral list for all the people that are leaving California. We'd love to refer them your way. And lastly, if you're looking to level up your content creation game, whether you want to level up in audio, video, social, we got you covered. We'll teach you how to podcast. We'll teach you how to shoot videos, do the whole deal. All that stuff is at thewhisselway.com.
All right. So go ahead and talk for 20 minutes and I'll give you a widget and I'll be done.
We talked for like 2 straight hours this morning.
Okay. So again, let's start with...
Just reframe.
Let's start with your story. And we've kind of lived this together. This was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and you've entertained the idea of possibly selling the brokerage. And you found out that wasn't the right path for you at the time. You weren't leaving the business, but you were just kind of experiencing it. Go ahead and tell me that story.
For sure. So prior to being at eXp where we are now, I ran my own independent brokerage. And at the time, my vision always was like, hey, I'm going to have my own independent brokerage with the goal that I can sell this thing someday. I always had this number of $10 million in my head. For those of you watching, my number's not 10 million anymore. It's a lot higher just before you jump to conclusions. 10 million won't move the needle. But back then my number was $10 million. And so I started to build this brokerage up, and lo and behold, I started getting approached by some of the big brands out there, some 3-letter brands, some brands that have magazines, and some smaller brands as well. Like Brian's brain is just processing. So I started to get approached, and I was like, holy shit, it's happening. Like there's this, you know, we had this illusion that there's this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can see the pot of gold. It's there. So we got approached by multiple brokerages that wanted to do an M&A deal with us. M&A, if you're not familiar, mergers and acquisitions. And so we started to go through the process. And it was a very humbling process to go through. What I realized is my independent brokerage was run as what a lot of people would call a teamerage. So it was a independent brokerage that operated as a team, and I was still the top producing agent on that team. And so when they do an acquisition or a merger, they typically are going to value your company, assuming you are gone from the company. And so if you're going to be gone from the company, they're going to take your production out of the equation. Well, my teamerage or independent brokerage at that time, the agents on the team effectively covered the expenses to run it. And then my production was the profit. Well, when they value you, they take you out of the equation. Well, if you took me out of the equation, you took the profit out of the equation. Therefore, the net income, or the specific term that's usually used in M&A deals, is EBITDA. The EBITDA of the company was virtually zero. And these companies are usually valued on some sort of multiple of your EBITDA. Again, net income, but a specific version of it. You could apply any multiple you want to zero. It's still zero. So I was hoping that my brokerage, which at that time netted, if you included my production and everything, all the money that the brokerage generated, including my agent income, it was about $1 million. And I was hoping that I could sell for $10 million. Multiples, they don't ever sell for 10 multiples. Usual multiples for brokerages are like 3 to 5. But I thought I was special and I'd get like double the max, because I don't know, I was young and I thought I was special. So give me more money. In reality, I was worth like a tenth of what I wanted. So it was a very humbling experience to go through. The excitement of like, oh my gosh, these people want to do a deal. And then, holy shit, I'm not worth anywhere near what I thought I was worth. So it was a humbling but extremely valuable experience to go through.
So doing that, you learned a lot through that process, how to manage your books, how to separate your books, how to focus more on just your not just your own production, but the overall health of the team. There's lots of that. And I don't really want this podcast to be how to go through that, because that could be a full course. And then
I spent 2 hours talking about it today.
So
it's a lot to explain.
Yeah. So I want to talk about monetizing as you leave. And again, I want to start with a single agent.
Yeah.
So in your story here, they want to see how you work pulling yourself out of production. Well, if you're a single agent, you pull yourself out of production. That's all you have, right?
Right.
So how would someone monetize an exit if you were a single agent? And how do you figure out a price of what that is?
For sure. So there's a lot of different ways deals are done. There could be money up front. There is often so on a normal M&A deal, like on a brokerage level, there's some sort of upfront payment. A lot of times, let's say it was 5x EBITDA and you were $1 million EBITDA after cleaning all the books and everything. So let's assume the value of the company was $5 million. A lot of times they would give you like half the money up front, and then they would give you the other half over a period of time on what's called an earnout. So you'd still stay involved with the business and that complete activities. And you had to stay for a certain period of time, and there would be milestones attached to that earnout. So whether it's the number of transactions or agent retention, a variety of different things, but lump sum up front and then an earnout over a period of time as specific milestones are hit. So that's how like a brokerage exit normally happens. As a solo agent on an exit, I think it's going to be very hard to get a lot of upfront money as a solo agent. Now, if you are a solo agent who's been in the business for 30 years, you absolutely dominate a farm, and you have an airtight, set of books and an airtight database, and you're in active communication with them, and you just have all these inbounds, coming in, come list me's. I could see where somebody, self-included, would pay some money up front for something like that. Whereas we had somebody a year or so ago that had a team in Arizona, also did an expansion team here in San Diego, had a whole bunch of Zillow leads and stuff coming in, and they thought they could run this team into different states, realized it was way harder to run in 2 states than they thought it was, and decided, hey, you know what, let me just go back to focusing on Arizona. I did better when I wasn't spread so thin, but they had accumulated a whole bunch of leads from Zillow at that point. And we were like, hey, we'll take that over. We did not offer anything up front there because, right, there wasn't this like long established track record with loyalty and brand and all of that stuff. It was just, we were taking over this database of leads, which, the leads were fresh, which was good, but there was no like brand loyalty or anything there. So in a scenario like that, we just took the database over. We agreed to a referral fee. So any deals that come from that database, that person gets a referral fee off those deals. And so even at that, that's not the worst thing in the world, right? Like that's really your worst case scenario on an exit is no money and guaranteed referral fees on anything that comes from your database. So I would say like that's your like low point. That's your worst case scenario, is no money, but at least some agreed upon referral fees. So you should at least get that if you're exiting, even if it's 5 people in your database, right? Or 500 people or 5 million people, whatever. At a minimum, you should turn your database over to somebody and have some sort of agreed upon referral agreement.
Now, when I hear that, and I think about some people on our team that think like this, I would go, okay, well, if I'm going to sell you, I only have 5 people in my database that I actually talk to, but I'll just get 10,000 people in my database. I'll get lists from title, and then I'll sell you a 10,000 person and 10,005 person database. When you're looking to acquire a database like that, do you do any sort of culling or deduplicating, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I want to find out, how did they acquire these leads? What's the communication? What's the follow-up campaign? Like, what are they actually doing to stay in touch with these people? How active are these people? So, like, I want to take over their database. I want to get in there and see how many people have been on the website in the last 30 days, right? Like, I want to look at a lot of that. Also, I want to deduplicate and see, do I even want your database? Because if you got a 5-person database and I have those same 5 people already in my database, they're of no value to me. So I also need to see how much overlap we have, if it even makes sense for me to touch your database. So yeah, but seeing the activity level, again, that's where it's like, if you dominate a farm and have dominated it for 30 years and your name's synonymous with that farm, that's totally different than if you just have a bunch of internet leads.
Now, we talked about solo agent, independent agent, and how we can get referrals on that. And let's talk about maybe a team leader. And so I know who we're talking about, but I don't know their scenario very well. So I'm just going to make up a scenario knowing that it may not be true. But they have 2 teams in 2 different states, think it's way harder. I'm just going to stay with Arizona. I'm going to get rid of my database and my team in San Diego. Now, again, the easy thing they could say is, here's my database, pay me a referral. Team, good luck, good riddance. I wish you the best. And knowing this person a little bit I do, I'm sure it wasn't just like, sucks to be you, figure it out, people. How do you then, 1, make sure your people are taken care of? And 2, can you do that where it benefits you or even them monetarily?
Yeah, so we've done a few team deals, team M&A deals. And so there's 3 ways to do these team deals. 1 is acquiring their database. 2 is acquiring their, which their database would include, I guess this might be 4 ways. So a few different ways. You could acquire just the database. You could acquire the assets. When I say assets, I'm talking their Google profile, their Yelp profile, their Zillow profile, any of these channel partner accounts they have set up. Like, those are considered assets. And then you could also acquire furniture, fixtures, equipment, FF&E as they call it. So there's assets, and then there's people. There are 3 different things, and then you could acquire some combination thereof. So that deal, we solely acquired database. We've done another deal where we acquired all of them, right? All 3 components of that. So there's various different ways to structure them. So, another deal we did, the person was moving out of state, and they had multiple agents on their team. And so in that deal, we were able to structure a referral fee off the database and a referral fee off the deals those agents, assuming those agents choose to join the team. We built in some retention bonuses. So the longer they're with the team, there were bonuses attached to that. Additionally, there were referral fees, but only off the deals those agents self-generated, not the deals we gave them. Because if it was off the deals we gave them, we wouldn't give them any deals, because we don't want to pay a referral fee when I could give it to another agent on my team that I don't have to pay a referral fee. So we agreed it didn't make sense to pay this person a referral fee in the event we gave one of their agents the lead. So that person does get a referral fee if the agent who came over closes a deal that we did not generate, self-generated deal. Then there's a referral fee off of that as well.
So in that situation, this person's making money in 4
and the third way is the assets. So we also agreed that if something comes from one of the assets, they get a referral fee. So if something can be tracked directly back to the Yelp profile or the Google profile or whatever, that we'd also get a referral fee off, or that person would get a referral fee off of those. Again, for a period of time, not for eternity. These things are typically structured in like 1, 3, or 5 year terms.
Okay.
I've seen people do lifetime. I would never do a lifetime deal. So 1, 3 to 5 years is usually pretty common.
And during those 1, 3, or 5 years, I assume the answer is yes, but that person still needs to be licensed, right?
They would, because they're actually, I don't know that answer.
In both of
If
these
they're
situations,
assuming they're being paid as referral fees, but I don't know. And in both of the scenarios of what we've done, they've been licensed, so it's not been a non-issue. If somebody wasn't licensed, you couldn't pay them referral fees if they're not licensed. So yes, they have to be licensed.
Yeah. And pay a couple $100 to keep your license. You
would
be
hope,
inactive.
yeah. And even if you stop doing stuff, like, I don't know, you renew your license every like 4 or 5 years, or some states it's longer. So even if they stop doing anything, their license is still going to stay active for a while.
Cool. Okay, so now we know a couple different options. Obviously, we've done a few of these. Mm-hmm. What if someone...
We're looking to do more. If you do want out, call me.
I mean, that was a little bit more right hook on my segue than I was hoping for, but sure, we can go that. We'll get there. That's the next question after this one.
I don't ever do that, so I gotta do it every once in a while.
If someone is looking to exit the business,
yes,
how do they find someone like you, like us, that are looking to acquire the people in their situation?
Yeah, so this is the hard part, right? A lot of people don't want to be public about this stuff. So the deals we've done have always been very discreet until they can't be discreet anymore. So discretion is very important. We obviously honor that on our end. So if somebody does want to have a conversation like that, it's the very first conversation before you jump into anything is, 1, I'm honored to be having this conversation. And 2, 100% of what we discuss is discreet until you tell me. Or is a confidential, discreet, whatever, until you tell me otherwise. So those are like the 2 most important things up front in any of these conversations that I ever enter into, is making sure that's crystal clear to somebody. So typically, if somebody's going to sell their team, turn their team over, whatever, to someone, it's usually got to be somebody there's a relationship with and there's an alignment of beliefs and values in order for that to happen. Because you've got to trust that the person you're turning your baby, because I look at this, I had an opportunity to acquire somebody's business a few years ago.
I could have bought their kid.
But that's the thing is, the first time I didn't treat it like it was a baby. The second time I did. Because, dude, somebody's put in 20, 30 years in this business. Like, that's their baby, right?
And
like,
it's a lot of times it's their name.
Over to somebody, like, right? You've had kids recently, like, especially your first kid, like the first time you hand that baby to somebody is fucking terrifying. Like it is absolutely terrifying. Like, you better not drop my fucking baby. Like that's tough. So you got to treat it that way, right? Like if somebody's got to understand, like this is a big thing, because if somebody's gonna like turn their team over to you, they're trusting that you're gonna do an amazing job with that, because they're banking on making referral fees off of that for years to come. So they've got to have a high level of trust. So I think that it's really hard for somebody that you have no clue who they are. You're not going to turn your team over to them. You got to have a relationship with them. So, depending on which side of this you're on, if you're thinking about turning your team over to somebody, doing a deal with them, it should be somebody you know, like, and trust. And if you want to take over other people's teams, you should be known, liked, and trusted, right? Like that's key. So if you're just hiding in the shadows and all of a sudden you start trying to acquire people's teams, I don't think you're going to have a lot of success, because people don't know who the hell you are. And if they don't know who you are, it's impossible for them to like you. And there's no way in hell they're going to trust you because they've never heard of you before. So I think having relationships in the industry pays dividends in a million different ways. This is one of those ways, right? Chet Black talks about like all the things you do, like this mastermind I just hosted and spoke for 2 hours today. There was like 40 people in the room. Like those were just deposits, right? In the equity account. Like I'm just making deposits. I'm making deposits. At some point I can make a withdrawal, and that withdrawal might be acquiring somebody's team. But if I don't put those deposits in, I can't make a withdrawal. And so you got to think like, what deposits are you making into the world, into the real estate ecosystem? You're not going to be able to make a withdrawal out if you've never made a deposit in.
I think one other thing that you mentioned, but I want to dive or just expand upon a little bit, is you have to also make sure the culture of your asset, whatever it is, your database or your team or whatever it is matches the culture of the company that's going to. If you are everything you do, all your billboards, all your mailers are all very blue, and then you try and sell your team to a team that's all red with
We're talking politically?
Politically.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you swing hardcore liberal publicly, you're not going to turn your team over to somebody who swings hardcore conservative publicly. So that's another thing, is to be careful of that. Like, now, look, I'm not telling you how to act. Okay, you believe in something, you can, put that out there and be public. That's your choice. Just understand, anytime you say yes to something is saying no to something else. And so every time you say yes, like, I'm going to put all my political beliefs out there publicly. I don't care. This is what I believe in. Go red, go blue. Like, that's cool. I'm not stopping anybody from doing that. But just understand, by doing that, you're saying yes to, I'm going to put my public, beliefs out there, my convictions out there. You're saying no to, like, aligning with people who have opposite beliefs. Just know that, right? I'm not telling anybody not to post. Freedom of speech, do what you want. Just understand the ramifications of what you're doing.
I have that exact same speech when I talk about social media. The exact same speech. Yeah. So yes, that's true for your database, but also for your team, right? And we know lots of agents that have joined the team, great people, great real estate agents, but this isn't the culture for them. Whether it's the accountability, whether it's the language that's used, whether it's the culture that we have.
What are you talking about?
I'm not sure. The culture just didn't mesh. And there are still people that are in communication with us today who love us, but go, I couldn't join your team. It's not a right fit. So again, that's another thing you want to make sure that those two pieces fit well when looking to offload, or not offload, but monetize or sell your team, especially because, like you mentioned, there's retention bonuses. If I sold you my team and none of my team members liked you, I'm not going to get any retention bonuses, and that sucks for me. It puts my team in a bad spot. It's just not good for anyone.
I agree.
So let's be very specific. Now,
there's got to be the alignment of culture. I think the more alignment there is in systems and processes as well, that's really important to make sure there's synergies. Where if you're on two totally different business models, like, I think it's also hard for somebody who's a hardcore farmer to turn their team over to somebody who's like a hardcore internet leads person, because there's such different philosophies on, like, running business. If I'm a hardcore farmer, I would want to turn my business over to somebody else who's a hardcore farmer, because I think they're going to do better with it, as opposed to, because they're just so different. Like, if it's a team that's like 90% of their deals are internet leads and 90% of my deals are farming, I don't know if I want to turn it over to somebody like that. So finding alignment and synergies between the two businesses, and like, what business do we focus on? What systems do we use? Especially, right, if you're acquiring agents and everybody's on top producer from back in the day, and like, we're on Follow Up Boss with like 562 automations, like, we might have a difficult time, with the new agents coming into our world. So the more alignment there is of, like, systems, processes, business models, I think that also helps. So as you're looking for someone, if you want to do an M&A deal with your team, is find somebody where there's those synergies. I think that's really important.
So let's be very, obviously you mentioned it several times. What are the teams or the individuals or the databases that you, Kyle Whissel, are looking to acquire in the next, 12 months? Like, I don't know if you want to share goals or what, but who are you looking for, and maybe who are you not looking for?
Honestly, I think the person that I want to work with right now, and I think this is one that's just like such a mutually beneficial deal to do, is I think there's a lot of people who have, whether it's seeing me or seeing all the other amazing, giant team leaders on stage, people see that and they're like, I need to have a big team like Kyle does, or whomever. And so they go and they start a team, but they're not somebody who ever should have started a team. I was asked at this mastermind today, and they were like asking about, like, the employee owner relationship. And I was like, you know what? I'm the employee. The way that my head works and my team is, I'm the employee. I work for my agents. Like, that's how I believe. Like, to the core, I work for my agents. And I think that's why I have success as a team leader. I don't just say it, I believe it. Like to the core, that's who I am. All I do all day is I obsess over my agents. What do they need? How can I help them? Right? How can I attract more of them? Like that's what I obsess over every single day. It's not the Kyle show. It's not about me. It's about them and how can I help and support them. There's a lot of other people who don't have that mindset that started teams because they felt pressured into it because they heard these big names on stage. Let me shoot real straight with you. A lot of those people have these big numbers of units, volume, whatever. They don't make a fucking dollar. They're losing money. They're just not going to talk about it. When's the last time you heard somebody talk about net profit on stage? Or even gross profit, right? Or even GCI. No, it's always units and volume, which are these like big vanity metrics. So I think a lot of people got peer pressured, into starting these teams, and they hate them. They hate their lives, right? You're running this team now, and you're actually making less money than you were when you were just a solo agent, and you have way more stress and way more headaches. Hell, if I could share the headache I'm dealing with right now as I'm recording this, you would never want to start a team. So I think a lot of people got pressured into starting teams, and they hate their lives now. They're having way less fun, and they're making way less money. That's who I want to partner with right now. If that's you, like if you're watching this and you just want to go back to producing and like offload all the headaches of the people, the agents, the systems, all the shit, and you just want to go back to having fun again and selling homes and working with buyers and sellers, like that's who I want to partner with. Because what I can do is for you, take all the headache off your plate and let you go back to producing and give you the most badass back end support system that I think exists in this industry. And so you can go out there and have fun producing again and get back to making profit with all the headaches and stress, and provide a really good landing place for all your agents that can also plug into that same system. That's the person that I'm looking to partner with this year.
And so we're in San Diego. Are you looking for only people in San Diego? San Diego and Riverside is where we have our team. Are you looking for only Southern California? Are there specific geographical locations?
So currently 2025, Southern California only. Ideally San Diego or Riverside County. I think before the year's over, we'll be open up to some Orange County, LA, San Bernardino areas. But right now, ideally San Diego County, Riverside County is where we're the most focused. Because we have offices in both locations. We have Zillow Flex accounts with tons of lead flow in both locations. We have all the support, everything, so that we can really give you the full Whissel Way experience. But yeah, there's definitely goals to expand outside of that as well.
And if someone wants to, usually I'm really many chat happy and say something below and we'll send you a message. But again, we talked about confidentiality and keeping things on the down low. I'm not going to say, sell my team below and we'll reach out to you. What's the best way for them to contact you? Not anonymously, but
yeah, just DM me on Instagram. Nobody manages my DMs on any of my profiles. It's 100% me. So if you want to have a confidential conversation, like if you're watching this, just hit me up. And even if you're in another market, but this message is like resonating with you, I know people in most of the major markets across the country. So even if it's not a fit for me currently, I can connect you with somebody that might be able to provide you a good landing spot so you can get back to having fun again.
That's good. I'm happy.
Yeah? Feel good about it?
Yeah, I
Should we do like a red hat that says like, make real estate fun again? No?
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Cool, guys. Well, hopefully you got some value out of the show today. If you did, and you're listening on a podcast platform, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Also, if you can hook us up with a quick little review, that means the world to us. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications so you get notified every time we drop a new episode of the show. And lastly, if you have a question, throw it in the comment section. Brian and I respond to all those comments personally. And then again, if this is something that, is this message connecting with you and you want to have a confidential conversation, just DM me at Kyle Whissel. Before we wrap, I want to do something we call Whissel Widget of the Week. This is something we utilize in our business that saves us time, makes us more money, or just helps us have more fun.
I noticed this the other day on my phone, and then I found out it was also on my computer. Within my Gmail app, and I'm sure do this in other apps as well, but with AI coming, everything's updating, right? There's a little button that I just realized underneath the title above where it says from that says summarize this email. So for people like Kyle, who if you DM him and it's 4 pages long, he probably won't read it. But if you go, yo, you wanna buy my stuff, be like, yo, what's up, right?
Yo, totally.
Yo, bro, bet, cap. So there's a button that says summarize this email, utilizing AI to just kind of simplify things. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And it was something that I didn't even see until accidentally pressing it.
Okay. The one that I'm going to do, we have inside Fast Forward Movement, our family at EXP, we have a referral map where we take all the agents that are part of Fast Forward that are doing 15 million plus or 30 plus units. We put them onto a map. So that way, when somebody inside Fast Forward needs to refer a client out, they can find who's the top agent in any of those particular areas. And that's all done with Google Maps. So you have the ability with Google Maps that you can go in and upload a CSV file and put whatever information you want to have in there. And then you can put pins all over the map, and you could then have it where when somebody clicks on a pin, it opens up, has somebody's name, contact info, their production, and all their coverage area, and just a little bit more info on who they are. It's super freaking valuable. So, we just released our new map. There's like 400 people on the map already because there's that many people selling that many homes in our group, which is super cool. But now that makes sure that anytime you have a referral need, you can see right there on a map who's the closest agent, and you know what their production numbers are, which I think that's important because so many times people want to refer somebody out and they just like throw in a Facebook group, and whoever gets like the first person that responds or the one that gets tagged the most is who they referred to, and they don't do any research to make sure the person actually produces. So this is nice to know that you have like actual producers that you can refer those deals to.
Something to note on that, there is a limit on number of sales you can do. And it's like 2,000, I think.
Yeah.
And so when I
hope to run into that limit someday.
Well, I ran into it when we did our past sales. And so, but what you can do is you can just create a CSV file with 1,500 and then do another one with 1,500. And that you can put and just do it as another layer on there. It took me a while to figure that out. So I thought I'd share it.
Beautiful. Well, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you got a ton of value today. If you want to stay connected with Bryan and I, follow us, DM us on Instagram at Kyle Whissel, at Bryan Koci. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Whissel Way podcast.